You think you're losing money because you lack information. That's a lie. You're losing because your mind panics before your logic can breathe. Because emotions hijack decisions. Because you move when you should wait, and wait when you should move. This video isn't about stocks. It's about you under pressure. Inside this video, you'll learn how smart people sabotage themselves, why the crowd feels safe right before it turns deadly, how patience becomes a weapon, and how emotional control, not intelligence, decides who survives long-term. We'll break down the psychology behind bad decisions, the hidden traps your mind sets for you, and the mental discipline that separates durable people from broken ones. If you've ever felt confident one moment and regret the next, stay. Because by the end of this video, you won't just think differently. You'll see your own patterns clearly. Chapter 1. You are not as rational as you think. Question. When was the last time you made a decision that felt right in the moment but felt foolish later? You like to believe you are calm, calculated, in control. That belief is the first risk. Every decision you make carries a hidden companion. Your mood, not logic. Mood. When money, status, or future security is involved, your mind doesn't ask, "Is this true?" It asks, "Will this make the discomfort stop?" This is where most people fall. Not because they lack intelligence, but because they confuse urgency with clarity. Studies on cognitive bias by Daniel Kahneman in 1979 discovered that humans rely on mental shortcuts under uncertainty. These shortcuts save time, but they distort judgment. Loss aversion makes pain feel heavier than pleasure. Overconfidence makes familiarity feel like mastery. This is not weakness. It is wiring. This might sound bad, but here's the truth. You are not built to think long-term when fear enters the room. Stoicism doesn't fight this. It accepts it. Marcus Aurelius urged restraint not because the world is cruel, but because your reactions are louder than reality. Think of the market like weather. Storms don't ask for permission, but only fools blame the sky for getting wet. The disciplined person doesn't predict storms. He prepares for them. Your first task is not to learn strategies. It's to recognize when your mind is lying politely. If you don't master that, every system you touch will break in your hands, and you'll call it bad luck. Chapter 2. You keep confusing movement with progress. Question. Why do you feel uneasy when nothing is happening? Like stillness itself is a threat. You've been trained to move. Click, buy, sell, decide, react. Silence feels like failure. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most movement is avoidance. Benjamin Graham warned about this without dramatics. He understood that action feels productive even when it's destructive. Doing something gives relief. Waiting gives doubt. And the mind would rather feel busy than be right. This is not ambition. This is anxiety wearing a suit. Studies on action bias by Michael Barilai in 2007 showed that people prefer action over inaction, even when inaction leads to better outcomes. The brain equates movement with control. Stillness feels like surrender. This bias quietly drains patience and replaces it with noise. This might sound devilish, but restraint is power. Sun Tzu understood this long before markets existed. He emphasized that timing outweighs force. Acting too early is the same as acting blindly. Stoicism aligns here without effort. Seneca didn't praise speed. He praised judgment. He knew that impulse is cheap. Discipline is costly, but it pays. Think of a hunter. The amateur fires when he sees movement. The seasoned one waits until the target steps into certainty. Most people lose not because they chose wrong, but because they chose too soon. You don't need more information. You need fewer reactions. If you can't tolerate boredom, you will never tolerate truth. And if you can't tolerate waiting, the world will always sell you urgency. Stillness isn't passive. It's selective. And selection is where intelligence begins. Chapter 3. The crowd is not your friend. It's your mirror. Question. Have you ever wanted something badly, only because everyone else seemed to want it too? You didn't call it envy. You called it opportunity. That's how the crowd gets inside you. Not by force, by suggestion. Benjamin Graham described the market as a character. Emotional, dramatic, and loud. He wasn't being poetic. He was being precise. The market is not a place. It's a mood, public mood, and public moods are contagious. You think you're choosing, but often you're sinking. This is where people get trapped. They don't lose money first. They lose identity. Studies on social proof by Robert Cialdini in 1984 showed that people look to others for cues on what is correct, especially under uncertainty. When you don't know what something is worth, you borrow confidence from the crowd. And the crowd lends confidence at the worst possible time. This might sound harsh, but the crowd isn't evil. It's just untrained. Nietzsche warned that most people don't want freedom. They want relief. They want to be carried. They want to be told what to believe, what to buy, what to fear. Herd behavior is not stupidity. It's fatigue. Stoicism draws a clean line here. Zeno taught that the wise person does not outsource judgment. Think of a room where everyone starts running. Nobody knows why, but your body starts moving anyway. That's the market in its purest form. If you follow the crowd, you will never know whether your wins were skill or luck. And you will never build trust in yourself. The crowd doesn't just take your money, it takes your spine. And once you lose that, you'll pay any price to feel certain again. Chapter 4. Price is a rumor. Value is a reality. Question: when you look at a number, do you see truth? Or do you see permission? Most people treat price like a verdict, like the world is voting, and the number is the final result. But price is not truth. Price is mood. Benjamin Graham built his whole philosophy on one quiet separation: what something is worth, and what people are currently willing to pay. That gap is where everything happens. And here's the twist. The gap is not an error. It's the whole game. Because humans don't price things with calm thinking. They price things with desire, fear, impatience, and pride. Studies on anchoring by Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman in 1974 found that people rely heavily on the first number they see, even when it's irrelevant. That first number becomes a mental leash. You don't just observe it, you orbit it. That's why a stock dropping feels cheap, even if it was overpriced to begin with. That's why a stock rising feels safe, even if it's becoming a trap. This is how numbers hypnotize you. This might sound cold, but value investing is basically emotional resistance training. You're not learning finance. You're learning to stand still while the world panics. Stoicism respects this deeply. Marcus Aurelius urged you to see things as they are, not as they appear through your appetite. Machiavelli would call it strategy, not because it's moral, but because it's accurate. The crowd reacts first. The disciplined person reacts last. Think of price like gossip. It spreads fast, feels convincing, is often wrong. Value is quieter, takes work. It doesn't entertain you, but it's real. And if you can learn to live in reality while others live in rumor, you stop being prey. Chapter 5. The smart person is the most dangerous person in the room. Question: have you ever been so sure of your plan that you stopped listening to reality? This chapter is going to sting a little, because the biggest threat to your future isn't ignorance. It's intelligence without humility. Benjamin Graham knew something most people don't want to admit. Being smart can make you reckless. A fool is cautious because he feels lost. But a clever person? A clever person gets addicted to being right. And once you're addicted to being right, you start defending your decisions like they're your identity. That's when you stop learning. That's when you start rationalizing. Studies on overconfidence by James Montier in 2002 showed that investors consistently overestimate their skill and underestimate risk. They believe they're above average in a game where most people lose. Overconfidence doesn't announce itself. It feels like clarity. This might sound devilish, but your ego doesn't need you to win. It just needs you to feel superior. Nietzsche would call this the hidden will. Not just to succeed, but to dominate, to prove, to stand above. And that hunger is not satisfied by quiet gains. It wants drama. Stoicism takes the opposite route. Epictetus urged that you focus only on what you control and accept the rest without complaint. And that acceptance isn't weakness, it's precision. Think of a ship captain. The arrogant one fights the ocean. The wise one respects it. The market doesn't punish stupidity the most. Punishes certainty. Because certainty makes you stop checking your own blind spots. And when your blind spots grow, your losses don't come as lessons. They come as humiliation. The video is half finished. If you like the video, be sure to comment and watch the next steps. Chapter 6. Risk is not what you see. It's what you ignore. Question. When you say, I understand the risk, do you mean the numbers or the consequences? Most people talk about risk like it's a statistic. Percentages, charts, volatility. That's not risk. That's decoration. Real risk is what survives when your plan fails. Benjamin Graham didn't fear losses. He feared permanent loss. Not fluctuation. Not noise. The kind of loss that doesn't bounce back because it breaks something structural, capital, time, or trust in yourself. And here's the part people avoid. Risk grows quietly during comfort. When things are working, you stop questioning assumptions. You widen positions. You justify exposure. Studies on normalization of deviance by Diane Vaughan in 1996 found that repeated success with risky behavior makes people treat danger as normal. The absence of consequences becomes proof of safety, until it isn't. This might sound harsh, but stability is often the most dangerous phase, because it lowers your guard. Stoicism cuts through this illusion. Seneca reminded that fortune behaves like a loan, not an inheritance. You don't own good conditions. You're borrowing them. Think of risk like rot in a beam. From the outside, the house looks fine. Inside, the structure is weakening. The collapse doesn't happen when risk appears. It happens when it's ignored long enough. If you only prepare for what you expect, you are gambling. Preparation means respecting what you don't want to imagine. Risk management is not pessimism. It's honesty. And honesty is the rarest asset in any system built on optimism. Chapter 7. Patience is not waiting. It's endurance under temptation. Question. Do you wait because you are disciplined or because you are afraid to decide? Most people misunderstand patience. They think it's passive, soft, delayed action. It's not. Patience is pressure held quietly. Benjamin Graham never praised patience as a virtue. He treated it as a requirement. Because without it, every strategy collapses into impulse. You don't abandon your plan because it's wrong. You abandon it because the waiting hurts. And waiting always hurts. Studies on delayed gratification by Walter Mischel in 1972 showed that the ability to resist short-term reward predicts long-term success across multiple domains. Not intelligence. Not background. Resistance. The capacity to sit with discomfort without negotiating with it. This might sound cruel, but impatience is just pain looking for escape. The world exploits this. Notifications, opinions, predictions. Each one whispers the same lie, act now or miss out. Stoicism sees through it cleanly. Marcus Aurelius wrote that time reveals all things. Not force, not speed. Patience doesn't mean indecision. It means you've already decided and you refuse to be rushed out of it. Think of a chessboard. The amateur reacts to every move. The master waits even when it looks like nothing is happening. That stillness is not emptiness. It's control. If you cannot hold your ground while others move around you, your decisions don't belong to you. They belong to the pressure. And pressure never wants what's best for you. Patience is not about time. It's about sovereignty. Chapter 8. Your worst enemy is the story you tell yourself. Question. When things go wrong, do you look at the facts? Or do you rewrite the past to protect your pride? Humans don't experience reality raw. They narrate it. You don't just lose money. You tell yourself why it had to happen. You don't just win. You explain why it proves you were right all along. This is where danger hides, not in events, but in interpretation. Benjamin Graham warned against self-justification more than bad analysis. Because once you defend a story, you stop correcting it. And a defended error grows teeth. Studies on cognitive dissonance by Leon Festinger in 1957 discovered that when actions and beliefs conflict, people adjust beliefs, not actions, to reduce mental discomfort. You don't fix the mistake. You edit the narrative. This might sound unsettling, but your mind will lie to you gently to preserve identity. You'll say, "It was unpredictable," or "No one could have known." Sometimes that's true. Often it's anesthesia. Nietzsche understood this instinct well. Humans don't seek truth first. They seek meaning that allows them to continue without shame. Stoicism cuts deeper. Epictetus insisted that suffering comes not from events, but from judgments about events. Think of your inner voice as a defense lawyer. His job isn't truth, it's acquittal. If you don't interrogate that voice, it will excuse every failure and inflate every success. Reflection is not self-criticism, it's self-respect, because the person who can face their own distortions doesn't need excuses. And the one who needs no excuses is very hard to defeat. Chapter 9. The real edge is emotional control, not information. Question: do you keep searching for the right answer because you secretly hope it will remove uncertainty? This is the modern trap. You think you need more knowledge, more videos, more data, more signals. But information is not the scarce resource anymore. Composure is. Benjamin Graham understood this before the internet existed. He wasn't competing on speed. He was competing on temperament. He knew that markets don't reward the person who knows the most. They reward the person who panics the least. Because panic turns intelligence into sabotage. Studies on emotional regulation by James Gross in 1998 found that the way people manage emotions changes their decision quality under stress. Some suppress, some reframe, some spiral, and under pressure, your emotional habits become your financial habits. This might sound blunt, but the market is a machine designed to test your nervous system, not your IQ, your nervous system. Sun Tzu would call this battlefield discipline. The soldier who can't control fear is not just weak. He becomes a liability. Stoicism is almost unfair here. It trains you to separate what happens from what you add to it. You don't control the market. You control your response. And that response decides everything. Think of two people in the same storm. One screams, blames, flails. The other adjusts the sails. Same weather, different fate. Your edge is not prediction. It's posture. If you can stay clear while others get hypnotized by noise, you don't need secret strategies. You become the strategy. And once you become that, the world stops being something you fear. Chapter 10. The final lesson. You are the asset. Question: if everything you own disappeared tomorrow, would you still trust yourself to rebuild? This is where the whole story lands. Benjamin Graham didn't write The Intelligent Investor to make you rich. He wrote it to make you durable. Because money is not the real prize. The real prize is becoming the kind of person who doesn't collapse when conditions change. Most people chase returns, but what they really want is relief. Relief from doubt. Relief from insecurity. Relief from the feeling that they might be wrong. This is why they overtrade. This is why they follow crowds. This is why they gamble with confidence they didn't earn. And here's the hard truth. Your biggest investment is not in markets. It's in your own character. Studies on locus of control by Julian Rotter in 1966 found that people who believe outcomes depend mostly on their own actions tend to persist longer and perform better under pressure. Not because life is fair, but because they don't waste energy begging reality for comfort. This might sound severe, but the world doesn't reward wishes. It rewards structure. Stoicism is structure, not a vibe, not a quote, a spine. Marcus Aurelius didn't say, "Stay calm," like it was a slogan. He practiced it like it was war, because it is. The market is just one arena, but the same laws apply everywhere. If you can't control yourself, you will be controlled. If you can't endure boredom, you will chase danger. If you can't accept uncertainty, you will pay for certainty with your future. So the ending isn't a prediction, it's a choice. Become the kind of person who doesn't need perfect conditions. Because when you have that, even chaos becomes usable. Thank you very much for watching my video, and please like and subscribe to my channel.